Alrighty. That guy should be live. Hello, everyone. How you doing? Hoping the mic and everything sounds good. The audio will be a little bit off for today. Hopefully I'll have fixes for that as we go. If it sounds a little echoey, I am in a actually fairly large room. But like I said, I have fixes I intend to put up for that. But hello. Today I'm doing an AMA. Yeah, I just moved into my new apartment. I'm not fully moved in yet, but my office area at the very least is done, and you know, I am partially moved into my new home. So how's everybody doing? I thought I'd kickstart off my fresh move with like an AMA or QnA. Didn't have any other topic, like specific topic that I felt like a full stream could take over. So yeah, that's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing a QnA AMA. So, like with the usual open mics, there is still the open mic on the Discord side of things. If you guys want to ask me questions or throw questions out to me via voice call and have like a actual direct dialogue that way, as opposed to posing questions in chat, that's an option. I will provide the link is in the description, but I will re-provide the link like all open mics in the chat right now. Hello, Josh. First one in. How you doing? Do you have a profile on new tech sites like Rumble, Odyssey, etc.? Yes, I have a Rumble. I linked it in the community tab on YouTube recently when I had some issue with YouTube when they censored my Sound of Freedom video. I re-uploaded the video in its entirety over there on Rumble. So if you're going to go check that out, that's linked in the community tab, unless they, I don't know, shadow banned it or shadow blocked it. It's still visible to me. I checked it the other day, so should still be up. But yeah, I already have a profile on other sites. I believe I've said that previously as well. I don't upload every video over there, because not every video really is necessary to do that. Most of my video, most of my content is around like 40K and stuff. So it's really nothing YouTube, I think, would censor. But that was an example of something that I covered that, obviously they don't want pedos and hebophiles being exposed, especially within regards to the country's elite, which no doubt YouTube's CEO, current CEO, and I would bet money previous CEO, as well as just generally higher ups, no doubt are involved in. Hell, the stream's probably gonna get taken down now, but regardless, yeah, that I do have that. So feel free to check that out if you'd like. But like I said, I don't re-upload or stream over there, or really anything like that. It's really just for the odd video that gets taken down on YouTube. James Knighton, welcome to the stream. How you doing? Ruriko, let's see, there's Roman numerals, so 3 after 10, 13. Ruriko 13, how you doing? I'm here to chill while I grind some games. Nice. Glad to hear it. Hope you're having fun. Are you playing Remnant? Are you playing Baldur's Gate? Anything new? Or are you playing like more of a classic game? Ahoy, Jarl. How's everyone? I'm doing pretty good. I'm hoping I speak for most of the people in chat when saying it's a good day. It's a good day. Remnant 2 currently. Ah, nice. Playing with co-op or single player? I've been playing it on my own lately. Want to finish it before Boulder? Good choice. Me, I'm not very good at like finishing a game and moving on to a new one. Whenever there's a new one that captures my interest, I immediately jump on it. It's a bad habit. I have I try not to fall into the habit every time, but it happens quite often. I'm gonna see about playing Baldur's Gate 3 relatively soon. I don't know. I'm kind of waiting to hear from like other content creators I know who I trust to tell me the truth. I'm kind of waiting for them to come to me and be like, hey, yeah, it's a good game. Try it out, play it. Or they come to me and say the opposite. Like I tend to like wait like a few days. In this case, anyway. The Dark Souls mentality. Actually, I probably should keep the Discord up just in case. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, as this is an open mic, like all open mics, there is a call line Discord. I linked it in the description and earlier in the chat. If you just scroll up, or it's not even really like it's still visible in the stream, like over there in the chat. But feel free to join that if you have a question you want to throw out for the Q&A or for AMA, like via voice call, but you can also do it in chat. There's no restrictions in regards to that. It's just whichever medium you prefer to like pose a question. So it seems like yesterday we spoke about picking me. Oh yeah. Okay, I remember that. Feels like yesterday. No, for me, time it drags a lot. So it actually feels like a year ago now. It's not even been a year. I think it's been like a handful of months. But it's been a hot minute. Yeah, that whole situation was still not. It's still nonsense now, and it was nonsense at the time. But recently I heard she came back with a new persona. It's unconfirmed. Like, Pikami hasn't confirmed it's her. It's like a hyena type character. Sounds people say it sounds just like her. Same mannerisms, same everything. I can't attest. I haven't seen like a side-by-side clip between the characters. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she came back as Hinya. Is it confirmed? Like, or is it not confirmed? All I do know is a lot of the nut jobs that tried to cancel and bring down Pikami immediately started acting like, oh, like, hey, look how innocent we were. Look at all the trans harassment that we received for quote unquote bullying Pikami. Hey, well, don't you guys regret that now? It's like, no, it's just as valid now as it was before. Now y'all just pretending you're innocent little angels when in fact you're quite the opposite. Sorry, this is flying running around. I'm using the ultimate weapon against the fly, apparently. Canned air. It's like this one fly, too. Pretty much with how she allows. So it's not confirmed. It's just highly speculated, quite likely. But it's not like Kenya has come out and said, yes, I am Pikami. Yeah, bullying is never good. I always think like shit talking and banter is always good, or most of the time it's good, as long as everyone understands that it is, it is that it's banter. It's not, you're not saying these horrible or rude things to try and get under somebody's skin. You're just saying shit to be funny or to be a little edgy. I generally think also in certain like communities, environments, you should go in with the expectation of that. Like the Call of Duty community, if you want to call it that. You don't play a Call of Duty round and expect like sportsmanship. Like you go in knowing that people are gonna say some pretty heinous things. Some things are gonna be like straight up like racial slurs and shit. So like there's certain like environments that you need to understand the culture that you're walking into. But in terms of, like, person-to-person interactions and stuff, it's all down to, like, your interpersonal connections. For me and my friends, like, we talk mad shit. Like, we say some pretty heinous things to each other. But everyone understands that none of it is serious. Like, none of it is a personal attack. Okay, since the topic of firstborn mentally is to Custer... Is to Custer at the moment? Custer. I am very confused. Is that a turn of phrase where you're from? Mentally is to Custer at the moment. Okay. And I know they're never going to do this. Would you think GW giving us Mark 9 Firstborn Marines? No. They just discontinue Firstborn Marines as a whole. I don't think they're gonna release a line of 9th. Mark 9 armor, true scale, anything like that. I don't no, not at all. I wouldn't even like inkling think that's going to happen. That's just not how GW works. Like they're taking down the line of Firstborn because they're not selling. Like that's why they're taking them down. And I appreciate the optimism from like the for example, the Legion of Unpopular Opinions, like they're an awesome group on Twitter and on Discord that they're hobby focused for like 40K, for bolt action, and like they're a wargaming community, and I'm part of that community. A lot of them, including the patriarch of the group, our glorious leader, Lord Metalman. He's like really like positive and I'd say he's overly positive personally. Like he came on my stream talking about it, like throwing out a speculation that that GW is like getting rid of firstborns and then they're gonna re-release them to us. Well, we already know they're gonna do that to an extent with the Horus Heresy miniatures. Like we already know that that's happening in that regard, but. Like what he posed though for like for 9th edition or sorry for 10th edition later on, they're going to just redesign and remodel all firstborns and then resell them in true scale or whatever. I think that's wishful thinking. I think it's optimistic, and I'm glad someone can think that way. I am not capable of that. I've been a consumer of GWs for too long to know that that's not how they work. They tend not to work anyway. I think if you think that's like again, I appreciate the optimism, but I just don't see it. No, they killed the line. They killed the line. And even if they do re-release it later, they still killed the classic molds that so many people have been collecting for years, and so many people have lorded over for years. I just don't see them. Even if they did re-release them, just no one's going to appreciate the re-release anywhere near as much as they do the classic models. Most sane people understanding the difference between banter and shit talking, trolling, and just outright bullying. Oh yeah, there's nuance with it all. Like it's part of human social interaction is the more you socially interact with people and you get involved in those situations, you start to understand the differences. Unfortunately there are a lot of people, like I would say especially nowadays, that aren't really capable of like discerning the difference. And I think there's just as many, if not more people who don't want to see the difference. Like they want to be able at any point to throw away nuance and throw away context so they can, use social interactions as weapons against people. Like, if like in banter, some people call each other like a slur of some kind, right? There will be people who might be listening into that, or people who will listen to like a clip of it or something, who will take it out of context and then intentionally frame it like they're being racist, they're being sexist, they're being homophobic, they're being this, that, or the other. Like people are intentionally, and I do believe there's intent. I don't think it's ignorance. I think that's if you just hand wave it as ignorance, I think you're being incredibly naive. I think a lot of people are far more vindictful nowadays. Far more conflicts occur via social interaction on the internet versus fisticuffs in a bar. So now consequences are different, and the way people, trade barbs is different than how it used to be like 40 years ago. So in like the modern day, a lot of people have turned to doing that intentional ignorance thing. Like they turn off any kind of cognitive or careful social process. Like I'm autistic, right? I do not pick up on physical social cues at all. Like I've explained that to exes, I've explained that to my best friends. It's like, listen, if you want to like get me to do something, you tell me what it is. If if someone's flirting with me, say you're flirting. Like be obvious, because I'm not going to catch it if it's like if it's like a curling of the hair. I don't know if you're doing that because you're flirting with me or because your hair is like all tangled up. I don't fucking know. So, but even I understand like there are nuances between banter, bullying, etc. Like there's a careful dividing line, and it all comes down to context. And if I can understand that, I think most quote unquote normal people can understand that. So I don't believe it's a case of ignorance like 90% of the time. I am certain it's intentional misunderstanding, so people can use certain social interactions as weapons. And then that's why we have a huge like bit of cancel culture and shit like that nowadays. It's bullshit. Like to summarize all that, it's total bullshit. But that's how like the social sphere has shifted with the burgeoning of social media and internet-based banter interactions and pseudo-social environments. That went on a bit of a tangent, but hey, other guy. When I first heard of VTubing, I thought it was not safe for work. I don't know what I thought when I first heard it. Like, it's gotten to, I guess it's weird to say this, but it's gotten to the point where it's so common in like the environments around me, like VTubing. I hear it all the time and I see examples of it. I don't remember what I first thought. Like, I could have thought that. I could have probably thought like, I don't know, like I think what I first thought, and I'm trying to like drag back the memory, like when it first started and when I first started hearing about it. I think what I must have thought was it was virtual tubing, so I thought people were like doing VR, and like I thought this is what I think I thought. Like, this is secondhand thinking here, but I think what I must have thought is that it had something to do with VR. Little did I know, no, it's about having a little animated avatar that people like faith rig and shit. Mentally and cluster, sorry. Okay. You never give them up? Well, if you have a 3D printer and you have STL rescans of them, you don't have to ever give them up. That's the upside with 3D printing, folks. It doesn't matter what the company or what the studios stop producing. You can produce it infinitely. As long as you have the resin and you keep your machine functioning and clean. You can have a billion like firstborn Marines of all types. It's the biggest upside of that becoming more and more mainstream. Yeah, well, I say mainstream, becoming mainstream within the niche audience that is wargaming. Workshop where I work. Would give HR a heart attack if it existed there. It's so fun working there. Okay. You guys don't have an HR? I envy that. Speaking of Horus Heresy, building that up a bit more. Is that a question or a statement? If it's a statement, I'm glad you're working on your... as it is, like my Horus Heresy stuff is... I'm still working on my Blood Angels. I've hardly touched them. I touched them quite a bit the last couple of days because, I've had to move into this place. And, I set up my bookcases. I got all my fancy schmancy books, I got my manga. I got my comics. I got some weird art books. But of course, 40K, all right here. Yeah. My Horus Heresy, like, physical collection doesn't look very good, but most of it is audiobook form. Like, I have, like, I want to say 30 of the 56 books on audiobook, and I don't have any of these on audiobook, so that kind of works out. Like, I have physical copies of some that I don't have on audiobook. I do have Horus Rising, though, and this is, like, the Masterworks version. Statement. Okay. Black Reach is... speaking of your Horus Heresy army, James, what is it... First, is it, like, Heretic or Loyalist? Second, which army? Like, who are you playing? Which Legion? Black Reach is when I started. Good times. Better times, for sure. If you guys hear a barking, that's the dog upstairs. I don't, the folks that live upstairs, they have like 4 or 5 dogs. I think that's a beagle. Don't know. I don't know. I don't bother them. One upside with this apartment, there's plenty of downsides, but one big upside is I don't ever have to interact with them. I interacted with them quite a bit. They're nice people, but there's like a door right over there, so I just kind of circle around the apartment to leave. I don't have to like, bother them to leave or enter the place. Silver lining. Loyal, Luna Wolves, Blood Angel. Oh, you're doing multiple armies. Luna Wolves, Blood Angel, mainly Sanguine Guard, and a bit of Ultra. So you're doing 3 armies. Wait, you're doing Loyal Luna Wolves? Or is that like Loyal mostly with Blood Angels and Ultras, but you're also doing Traders for like Luna Wolves? Or I guess if you're using the term Luna Wolf and not Sons of Horus, I suppose that is like this is you know, what will become the Black Legion, the Sons of Horus, bad guys, traitors, and Luna Wolves is the loyalists. Good choice, I must say. I can't remember. It does. Actually, it might be in the book. Hold on. I love having a bookshelf. It makes it so much easier to check this shit out. Yeah, that's the. I make sure to bookmark this page because that's where my blood angels are, and I constantly reference this page to be like, all right, so how do I want them to look? But let me. I can't remember if in this book there is like the Luna Wolves. No, okay, so it just goes over who's canonically loyal. Like the full-blown legions. Yeah, because it doesn't have Luna Wolves. Yeah, I like to double check just in case. But I was wondering if like the Luna Wolves had a different color armor than the Sons of Horus, because I can't remember if their name change came with a color change or not. Like, I don't think so. That doesn't sound right to me. I do think their coloration remained the same, just the name changed. Gray area. Okay. Yeah, but both of us seem to be working on Blood Angels armor lately, so there's that. Yeah, all mine are Blood Angels, though. I'm not, like, doing multiple armies. Not yet, anyway. Maybe later, but for now, I'm just trying to do the one. If I do multiple, I have to get more Primarch, models, like my Sanguinius. I'm still proud of that paint job, by the way. The gold could, have a bit more nuance in it, but other than that, I think I did a damn good job. I would like to do an Imperial Fist army. I haven't painted up most of my Black Templars yet, though, so. I have so many projects. Actually, I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's my pile of shame. It's not even all my pile of shame. That's just what I've moved in so far. I still have several totes of like my move-in stuff. I think there's still plenty of other boxes I haven't put here. But I think that's... I'm going to say this with like hesitancy, but I'm going to say that's the majority. I might be wrong. But I think that's the majority of my pile of shame. Not including the Age of Darkness box set, which I'm still working for. But you can dream? Yeah. Plus, Horus Colors, when he did turn traitor, is iconic. So, I feel like Horus Heresy tends to focus more on the loyalists in the traitor legions more than the traitors in the loyalist legions. Except Dank Angels. Dank Angels. I mean, the Dank Angels. That does feel like a redneck way to say Dark Angels. Them there Dank Angels. Excuse me? Dank Angels, you get the Dank Angels. We're the Dark Angels. Silly human. Why are your overalls half torn? That's what a working man looks like. Let me tell you what. You have a Sisters of Silence and Custodian, but that mostly a buy of 40k. So it's a 40k army that, yeah. I mean, like, can be? Well, probably not in the current rule. As far as I know, the current rules are still just for, like, Space Marines. I think aren't they working in the Mechanicum and the Dark Mechanicum into Horus Heresy? I don't know if, I misheard that somewhere. That fucking dog. That dog didn't bark once when I was moving in yesterday. And he or she's been barking all fucking day today. I don't know what it is. GW is really neglectful of Mechanicum. I don't know if I'll agree with that. And because in 40k, they're one of the most updated armies, at least early 9th, late 8th, was the Mechanicus. The Adeptus Mechanicus. But I suppose if we're talking the Horus Heresy era, Mechanicum, then yes, I would agree. But to be fair, the new Horus Heresy game dropped only a year ago now. Has it been a year? I don't know. Time feels like it's flying by some days, and like it's slow as hell in the others. I think the re-release was last year or the year before. So, and my bigger problem with the Horus Heresy though stuff is they still haven't released Assault Marines. Like that is just, especially with like the recent announcement with how they culled all the Firstborn Marine kits for 40k. Now there's no substitutions people can put in to play with Assault Marines in their army. And I'm playing Blood Angels. Okay, Blood Angels have a melee focus. Not primary, like they're pretty Swiss Army knife. Like they have good functionality on both. And all Space Marines do. But certain armies definitely benefit more in certain like avenues of fighting. And I think Blood Angels, Space Wolves, and... well, not for Horus Heresy, like Black Templars for 40k and stuff like that. They excel in melee combat. So the biggest problem with Horus Heresy, and quite frankly what's kind of killing the Horus Heresy tabletop game, is that we don't have Assault Marines. And since we don't have Assault Marines, we're kind of fucked at the moment, which is sad. There's something I'm curious I keep hearing, that God Emperor is being resurrected. Is this true? No. Not yet, anyway, and hopefully they never do it. Because it is like... the God Emperor coming back is speculated about, and even hinted about. In recent novels, I can't remember which one it was, but it came out fairly recently. It was with Guilliman fighting against Mortarion and Nurgle's forces. The Emperor inhabited his body, Guilliman's body, to defeat Mortarion, Demon Prince of Nurgle, and Mortarion. Like, the God Emperor possessed his body. That's the closest to coming back the Emperor has been, and as it is, that was way too close for me. Like, I have so many issues with that narrative choice, and thematically, it was so fucking bad. If they bring back the Emperor wholesale, as it is, that was bad enough. Like, that was a terrible fucking move. Now there's so many questions, everyone, including myself, has. I was like, okay, if the Emperor could possess Guilliman and do all this shit, is it just because his powers are coming back a bit more now? And if so, if they're coming back, does that mean that the sacrifices of the Psykers, like the thousands of Psykers that are sacrificed per day to keep him alive, are actually empowering him, not just keeping him alive? Because that's been a theme of 40k since the beginning, is the God Emperor is on the verge of death. He's not getting better, he's actually getting worse. Like, part of the grimdark like storytelling has always been that if the Emperor dies, the Imperium is fucked. Like, he is providing a light in the warp every time they go and travel between worlds or sectors. They have to travel through literal hell to get between locations, and they need like the Gellerfield, but they also need the Emperor providing everybody and the astropaths that little like light in the darkness, the lighthouse effect, more or less you could say, in the warp, to provide them guidance as they travel between locations. If the Emperor dies, FTL, faster than light travel, is dead for the Imperium. They will not be able to traverse the warp. Even with astropaths, even with the Gellerfields, they will not be able to get between locations. They are fucked. That has always been a theme in 40k since they started writing the books, like the actual narrative the Horus Heresy novelizations and everything. That's been in the codexes. It's been repeated numerous times, as well as, you know, there's only male Space Marines. Female Space Marines can't happen. You know, lots of things that have been reconfirmed over decades of lore. And the idea that not only is he getting stronger, but that he could come back and, in between those two things, possess another being to temporarily manifest himself, just go this. It's a smack in the face to 40k. It's a smack in the face to the storytelling. It's a smack in the face to the themes of Warhammer 40,000, which is it is a grim, dark sci-fi universe that is constantly on the sci-fi. Science fantasy is also another way to go. I'd say it's more science fantasy than it is sci-fi. That's certainly my opinion. Kind of like how Star Wars is not really sci-fi. It's science fantasy. And even then, I wouldn't even really call it a science fantasy. I'd call it a space fantasy because there's no science at all. There's pseudoscience, but there's no real science. So, yeah, that's kind of a tangent. But anyway, that is like the theme of 40k. To take away that risk of the Emperor dying, and also kind of the irony of if they let him die, maybe he, as a perpetual, he would come back. God knows how long. But he would come back and be able to replace himself back in the universe. I mean, we know Vulcan was a perpetual and he could come back, so. There's so many questions and so many theories and so many, like, burgeoning, like, hypotheses that the community has come up with over years. But, regardless, the canonical underlying threat in the universe for humanity that's greater than just outward threats is the inward threat that the Emperor would die. And space travel would be fucked. If he's able to come back and manifest himself and do all of that and he's getting stronger, then that fear is kind of going away. Like, now that isn't a fear for the Imperium. If he's strong enough to manifest himself and possess somebody else, what's the risk? If he's that strong, then then there's no fear of him failing at this point. Like, yeah, they still got to sacrifice, they still got to help him survive, but if he's getting stronger to that point, that means at some point he will come back and they won't be fucked anymore. Which means that whole grimdark, fear of them being totally fucked if one man dies goes away. So a grand threat, an inward threat for the Imperium goes away. Now, there's still other things that make it grimdark, still other things that make it, super serious and things overbearing. But that's a huge pillar of one of them. And also, if he comes back, as it is with the Primarchs coming back, the religious, fanaticism of the Imperium is also kind of being stripped away very, very slowly, and there's a lot of resistance to it. But that's also been a source of the grimdark aesthetic because of all the religious fanaticism. There's been so much sacrifice, there's been so much torture, death, inquisitions, all this other stuff in the name of the God Emperor. But if his own demigod sons effectively are coming back and saying no, he's not a god, and slowly stripping away from that theme is being robbed of its grimdark element. The Emperor coming back will take away another inward threat of the Emperor. Like, at this point, the Imperium is just going to become Star Trek. Like, we're just going to have the Federation at this point in terms of like grimdark vibes. Like, a lot of the inward risks and threats and overbearing risks of everything are starting to go away. And I hate it. A lot. World Eaters as well. You're also doing World Eaters? Wow. You're putting a lot of product. I have a lot of armies I'm going with, but some I haven't even started painting because I collect before I start painting, and I don't like to jump around between the army projects. I have like my Horus Heresy army project. I have 2 40k army projects I'm actively working on, and I have like 4 or 5 planned. But I don't have like a bunch of them going at once. So he's already dead. I mean, he's virtually dead. I mean, there's Dreadnought level death, which is like just short of brain dead. Like, everything else about the body's fucked, but the one thing they were able to preserve is like the brain still kind of working, so they just kind of shove it in a machine and force it to keep going. That's already bad enough, but the Emperor's even worse off than that. Like, he's even further closer. Like, he's a wrong gust of air away from death. That's how like he's thematically been for millennia. The Nid's getting a Hellstar at the end of Leviathan, so... You'd rather the Emperor actually die, and a special select core goes to the work to capture / record of whatever is left of the Emperor that is needed to create that North Star in the warp. I mean, there's certainly things they could do to try and like regain that guide in the warp. There is like certain things I would accept if like they let the Emperor die and he stayed it. For me, I feel like that would be better to do. I really hate the idea of him coming back, because if he comes back again, like that's it. Like he is the being, like the being he created the Imperium out of the remnants of apocalypse level Earth and divided and sundered humanity across countless stars. He went from a backwater desert planet, effectively, that Earth became after societally it collapsed. He went from that to a full-blown intergalactic empire that spanned numerous star systems, trillions of citizens amongst its ranks, and just as many soldiers, as well as it's creating the Space Marines. With everything he's accomplished and everything he's done, and the power level he provides, as well as the experience he provides, him coming back is just, it's too much of a good thing. No matter how much of a prick he was, and will likely still be, or be worse, him coming back is just universally a bad idea for me. Like, it's in and of itself, no matter how fucked up he is in the head and stuff, universally it is a Deus Ex Machina for some level of the galaxy. So I would prefer him to die than for him to come back. Because if he dies, that makes the story darker. Even with the Primarchs coming back, that provides a pretty dark place. And that provides so many opportunities for them to write in a noble sacrifice of a Malkador type figure. Like things like that they might, maybe one of the Primarchs, Gilliman preferably, sacrifices themselves to become the new North Star in the Emperor's place. Although that kind of doesn't work with Gilliman because he's not a psyker, or not the same level. So, again, but there's plenty of ideas they can explore with the Emperor's death that maintain the theme of 40K, which is it is a grim, dark space fantasy. The Emperor coming back, it's not a grimdark anymore. As it is, it's already arguably not a grimdark right now, but it's definitely not if he comes back. Like, that just, it's a Deus Ex Machina for the theme. Biggie is Mr. Burns' levels of almost dead. Mr. Burns. Would like to see a game take place during the War of Unification Wars. Oh, would I like to see a game take place during the Unification Wars? No. I would not. Primarily because that's like a period of time, right? The Unification Wars. That's part of a time. If you mean like the Great Crusade as a whole, then yes. But if you're talking about like specifically the Unification Wars on Earth for the Emperor to try and like rally all the Mad Max, clans and raiders and, sparsely spread out human clans and gangs all over the world and just unify them under his banner. Talking about specifically that, I think that they could make a game around it, but my thing is I don't want, unless the game like said it wasn't canon, I wouldn't mind like a game around like the theme of that. Like maybe you play as a Thunder Warrior and it might be like a Space Marine type game, or maybe you play or maybe you play a force fighting the Emperor who's trying to unify all of humanity under his banner. I don't know, like there's stories that they could tell that would be interesting. But at the same time, my problem is if they do that for a video game, my issue with it is a lot of people would, a lot of the fan base anyway, a lot of the community would then start arguing about like the canon at that point. As it is, the canon's already got so many issues. But then people would be like, okay, so if this is what the Unification War was like, then this and this and this. And then people would use the game as a frame of reference for lore, which, you know, like the Space Marine video game, like just the old school one, that's not canon. Like, it's already, you know, established that that is not canon. At least as far as I know. Like, I don't believe it is canon. Parts of that game can work as canon, but also plenty of it is not canonically functioning with the universe of 40K as we have it. Like, there's so much about that video game that is done right and is correct in 40K, but there's also plenty of tidbits that are just straight up wrong. So generally speaking, we don't look at that video game as a piece of canonical lore. It is derived from the lore that we all reference for our, you know, our tabletop and our game and our lore discussions, but it is not a example of canon. But unfortunately, a lot of the community tend to either reference that or the Dawn of War games, which are more canon in my opinion than in fact, parts of them are 100% canon, like the Blood Ravens. They were made canonical because of the Dawn of War games. But people try and use like the Dawn of War games or Space Marine or, you know, other similar games in the 40K setting to then reference for canon, which is not, in my opinion, what we should be doing. Like, the canon is provided in the codexes and in the books. Like, those are the two places the canon is established and maintained. And even then, there's a lot of fucking problems because there's like 80 different writers working on all of 40K lore. But the video games, I think, add a level of confusion. Like, people got to keep in mind, essentially what I'm saying is, people got to keep in mind that the video games are not the lore. Like, they are derived from the lore, but it's kind of like it's a lot of people, you know, have a problem with it where they kind of see it as a chicken and the egg situation. Like, they think that they're interchangeable. It's not. There's a clear distinction between what is the lore and what is derived from it. So for me, my problem with a video game set during the Unification Wars isn't that I don't see them being able to make a game about it. My problem is then it would throw a monkey in the wrench, or it would be a monkey throwing a wrench into the situation of already complex lore debates and discussions. They like, oh, now we have like a visual direct experience set during the Unification Wars, so now we have this whole other thing to be arguing about. I'd say just to avoid that, I'm just going to say no. I would not like them to have a game set in the Unification Wars. But that's because I'm a lore nut. On the basis of just wanting another 40K based video game, I'd be down for it. It'd be cool. Would love the Blood Angels subsequent chapters to be lured by Khorne. Some of them have been, actually. Well, I don't know if those are canon. Some of them have been, but I don't know how official it is, though. I mean, as it is, the blood rage that the Blood Angels and a lot of their descendant successor chapters experience is directly a corruption of Khorne that was put upon Sanguinius when he was still in his pod form. You know, fun fact: the reason a lot of the Primarchs have some physical like mutation, and even if they don't have like an obvious one, they have an internal one, is because when the Chaos Gods, and no, fuck the Urda thing, that didn't happen, but when the Chaos Gods opened the warp up to them and thrust all of the Primarchs through the warp, each of the Chaos Gods tried to claim like a favorite, like a different Primarch that they wanted to corrupt to become an agent of their form of chaos. Khorne, his primary choice was Sanguinius. Although it's pretty much hinted at that each of the Chaos Gods wanted Sanguinius on some level, but Khorne in particular wanted Sanguinius to be like his Primarch, or Chaos Primarch, if you will. But he also corrupted heavily Angron. The big theme with it, keep in mind, part of this is fan theory, but a big theme of it is each of the Chaos Gods picked a favorite, but almost all of them ended up with their second choice. because their primary choice ended up being Loyalist. I don't know who went after Dorn out of the 4 Chaos Gods, but each of them again went after certain Primarchs, and it's believed that all of them tried to take Sanguinius and none of them got him. But you know, you see the Tzeentch corruption in his angel wings, you know, feathered bird wings. You see the Slaaneshi corruption in his elegant and beautiful appearance. Basically got turned into a femboy. Although, depending on like which artwork you reference, he sometimes looks like a Chad, and other times he looks like a, you know, effeminate. But you see that with Slaanesh, with Nurgle. I'm not sure what Nurgle would have done with him. That's like the one thing, like the one Chaos God I don't see anything, not even in like his behavior or anything. Like there's just nothing about Nurgle that really seems. That's why I don't necessarily agree with the theory that each of the Chaos Gods went after him. Because if that's the case, then what did Nurgle do? Like, as far as I could tell, nothing. And then obviously the Khorne corruption being the Blood Rage and the thirst for blood. That comes from Khorne. Nurgle feels like Emro to their Emro. You mean to say more? The Blood Angel, like Lust for Blood, that's part of Khorne's corruption, but the primary effect of his corruption is the Blood Rage. Like the Black Rage, I think is the proper term. The Black Rage that the Blood Angels experience when they go, like that eventually overtakes them after Sanguinius' death, that is a product of Khorne's corruption. Because it's an overwhelming rage and hatred that leads them to, well, a bloodlust. They already have like a native bloodlust that they have to regularly fight, but what makes it particularly bad is the case with Khorne's Black Rage. Like the bloodlust is like kind of native, but the true, like the Black Rage, when that overtakes them, that is pure Khorne. And it unfortunately it corrupts all of Sanguinius' bloodline. Like the Imperium has attempted numerous times to try and remove the corruption of the gene seed, but it has failed every time. Like the Lamenters, for example, were an example where they supposedly succeeded with that. Not only was it later revealed that they still were falling to the Blood Rage, but on top of it, even during the period where they thought the Lamenters were free of the Blood Rage, they still had the worst fundamental shit luck in all of the galaxy. There is nothing more unlucky than the Lamenters. Like the ultimate battle in terms of pure comedy would be Lamenters versus probably the Death Skulls, Greenskins, with their lucky color, which is blue. I believe blue is lucky. Yeah, like that would be a comedy show. It's like the luckiest gets in the universe versus the unluckiest assholes that the Imperium can provide. The comedy. A Space Marine RPG where you can play as. Well, we already have that in tabletop form. That'd be Deathwatch, the tabletop RPG. Or I guess tabletop doesn't really work here as well. Pen and paper RPG. We already have that. It would be interesting to see that turned into a Baldur's Gate 3 or smaller scale even. Divinity Original Sin 2 kind of game for, you know, PC. I would like that kind of RPG setup. They're doing that. They're trying that out with like Rogue Trader, which I don't know if that's out or anything yet. I know there was like a beta a little while back. But yeah, I would like to see like a Death Watch essentially get turned into a video game form. That'd be interesting. Like a turn-based RPG, just like Divinity Original Sin 2, or like Baldur's Gate 3, I guess. Yeah, that's the only one that's coming to mind. Yeah, it'd be cool to see them do that. Again, there's already the Death Watch, you know. There's already the Death Watch tabletop RPG. So just like for Baldur's Gate, which is a Dungeons and Dragons, you know, spin-off kind of booklet for D&D, they could just as easily be like, all right, we're going to take that exact same idea and just do it for the Death Watch tabletop pen and paper RPG. Like, just take that pen and paper RPG and convert it into a video game just like they're doing for Baldur's Gate. Like, boom. I'm not going to pretend it's, like, easy. Like, converting that stuff is not easy, but it would be... should they pull it off, it would be fucking awesome. Here's a different topic. Would an Imperial Knight win against an Assault Mech or... an Assault Mech of Battletech? That is a debate right there. I'm biased. I don't intricately know the mechs in Battletech as well as I know the Imperial Knights or the Titans from 40k. But my bias is being what they are, and again, knowing as little as I do about the battle mechs from Battletech, I would argue that the Imperial Knights would win. But again, that's for me. I'm not answering it from a position of the no. Like, I don't know Battletech anywhere near as well as I know 40k. So I'm just going based off A, my bias, and B, just how overpowering I know Imperial Knights are and Titans are. I'd have to go with Imperial Knights personally. But again, I'm sure that if a Battletech fan watches the VOD of this or jumps in the chat conveniently right now, that'd be interesting. Were to jump in and be like, well, actually, I don't know. Like, this is purely bias and purely a lack of knowledge of one side of the argument. But I would love to see a debate on that. That would be hilarious. You were thinking Dragon Age? I don't know if I'd like a Dragon Age style RPG. A Divinity Original Sin 2 or Baldur's Gate style video game RPG, would love it. Dragon Age, I don't even like Dragon Age, to be honest. Like, I like the world of Dragon Age. I think it's a good RPG, if we're talking about Origins anyway. But I'm not really a huge fan of, like, the game as a whole. Like, for Dragon Age, I like the world. I like the RPG, some of the RPG elements of it, but the actual gameplay, not my thing. I would rather play a lot of other things than play Dragon Age. How about an AdMech-themed Diner Dash game where you run a factory? That would be a great browser game. I don't think it would be something I would buy for like $60 or even $15. Like that would be like a cheap $5 phone game I would get, maybe. Urban Mech would totally stomp Imperial Knights, by the way. Well, first of all, the Imperial Knights, I do know this, like, just from playing Mech Warrior, which, to be fair, I don't know how accurate that is to the lore. But Urban Mechs, or Urbies, are fucking slow trash can pieces of shit, okay? It can take a beating and pack a punch, but Imperial Knights are fast. Like, they can be, anyway. I don't want to pretend like it's like the Flash or anything, but for their size, they're pretty fucking fast in the lore. Like, an Urban Mech wouldn't be able to hit them. That would be the big... An Urban Mech can't even hit a Mantis in Mech Warrior, so... If it can't hit a Mantis, it couldn't hit a fucking Imperial Knight. And even if it could hit it, the gap would be closed between the two so fast, and the melee weapons that are on show for an Imperial Knight would rip right through an Urbie. Again, this is based on my like Mech Warrior experience, but I can't agree based on that. If the lore of Battletech says, oh no, actually, you know, Urbie Mech can survive like being hit by, I don't know, a meteorite, then I'd be like, okay, then yeah, Imperial Knight's not going to breach that. But just anything short of like it being hit by like the biggest nuke you've ever seen and surviving it, I don't know. Like, from what I experienced playing Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries, the Urbies would not stand a chance again, just on the basis of speed. But there's other factors that it's just between the two. I don't see an Urbie surviving. Like for an urban mech to stomp an Imperial Knight, the Imperial Knight would just have to be unpiloted and not moving for that to happen. Because the Urbies are fucking slow. That's why I said Assault Mech, since Assault Mech and Imperial Knight has a near 1-to-1 size comparison. I mean, again, like that's not one I don't know very well. I played the Urban Mech and Mech Warrior. They're slow as fuck. Definitely would be screwed against an Imperial Knight of any kind, like even the smaller ones. But like against a Canis Rex, we're not even talking. At that point, it's just bye. You're fucked. But as for an Assault Mech versus a Imperial Knight, again, I don't know the specs, and I don't think I played an Assault Mech in Mech Warrior. I played Urbies. I played the Mantis. Fuck what's that one called? It's the one that actually looks. It's like the first small one that looks like a person. It's only slightly bigger or roughly the same size as a Mantis though. Like really small mech. I don't know the name of it. Played that, and like the biggest mech I got to play was a yeah, I don't know the designation of it. I could tell you if you showed me a picture of it, but I'm not thinking of it. Notorious Centurion, I don't know. It could be that, it could be not. I don't know. I'd have to literally pull up the game and look. Is there an aspect of 40K I'd like to see get more attention from GW, Black Library, etc.? Yes. Do you got all day? I got a fucking laundry list. But like my top 3 that I think GW just do not fucking give a shit about, they absolutely should. Most of the Xenos races are just straight up fucking ignored. Unless like a new edition demands that they release something special. Like so far for 9th edition and now for 10th. They picked one of the Xenos races and used that as the new edition as an excuse to finally update the line. I hate that we have to fucking wait for full-blown expansion releases to start getting the lines updated. The Drukhari, for example, like their line hasn't been updated in like 20 years or more. Like the last time like the Drukhari lines were updated, and I don't mean like the sparse one here and there. No, I mean like a full range facelift. It hasn't really received one in like 20 plus years. Like there's been a blip on the radar here and there for like both Craftworld Eldar and the Drukhari, but like full range updates, full range facelifts. Like what the AdMech got in late 9th, early 8th. Sorry, other way around. Early 9th, late 8th edition. Like AdMech got a full facelift. So did the Sisters of Battle. They got a full, well, for the most part, a full range facelift. Both of them got full on, you know, they got taken to the spa. They got detailed tanning. They got, you know, a dieting program. They were given like the full makeup treatment. But Drukhari, nothing. Eldar, nothing. Until like the War of the Beast stuff, and with like mid-9th edition updates, the Orcs fucking didn't have anything for decades on end as well. And the Necrons only got updated because they were out of the lineup. Like GW was like, okay, so we need someone to be like thematically like against like the Space Marines for this particular edition. So we're gonna choose one of you lucky ladies today. And the Necron just got picked out of the line, like a fucking. It's like Necrons for like the Indominus box. Like that's the theme we're gonna go with, guys. Oh my god. And then at like a year plus later, now that we're going for 10th, they did it again. They're like, all right, so now we're going to choose like a random Xenos race and finally give you guys like an update. Like the Necrons, they're still like, you know, they're still like massaging their faces from like the fresh makeup, you know, from the Indominus, which finally gave us an excuse to actually fucking update anything. Now, Tyranids, like we're going to give you guys a facelift now too. We're going to wait another year and a half, 2 years, or whatever it is, for 11th edition, which, by the way, is going to be so weird to say. 10th at least rolls off the tongue, I will say that. Like, we had 9th edition, now we have 10th. It's going to be so weird to do like 11th, 12th, 13th. Like, once we get into those numbers, it's already fucking weird as hell. But yeah, that's a huge problem with GW is they wait for times like that to provide themselves an excuse to update the lines. When in my opinion, they should just be updating them as soon as like the molds start looking bad. Like, with the technology and skill set their sculptors and their artists have clearly right now that they dedicate to releasing like the 18th version of a Space Marine goddamn Lieutenant Primaris, they should have that same group working on that bullshit and actually updating the lines that they haven't touched in 2+ decades. Like, I can get not screwing up something that works, but fuck me, man. Like, the Space Marines get updated every month. At least give something to the fucking Xenos players. So that's a huge fucking problem. Next to that for issues from like Black Library, for example, any book that's just not Space Marine. Again, like, that's another problem. It's in the books as well. Giving attention to something that isn't the Space Marines. And I get it. Like, I love the Space Marines. I love the lore for them. But you know why I love it? It's because there's so much of it. Like, we have so much intricate lore on the Space Marines, from the Horus Heresy series, the Siege of Terra series, the Siege of Terra Primarchs specific books. You know, the codexes are far more thicker than every other codex. Like, we have, and so many one-off books, like not even Horus Heresy books. Like, for example, non-Horus Heresy or non-like major series of 40k novels that I have. Like, I got, out of the ones I have Death Watch. That's about Space Marines. Fucking Devastation of Baal. Space Marines, Blood Angels, and Ultramarines, for Christ's sake. Battle of Urdesh. That is also Space Marines, believe it or not. That like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Dark Imperium, like, that's another one-off book I have. That's Space Marines. Half the fucking books they release that... Look, I get Horus Heresy being Space Marine focused. Duh, makes sense. What the fuck do you... Why is it with so many of the one-off books, it's either Imperial Guard or... That fly has returned. Bastard. Why is it with so many of the one-off books you provide us, there's still, like I have one Xenos-focused book, like, in my collection right now, and that's the Twice Dead King Ruin. And then you have the Infinite and Divine... And then, like, one other, like, Necron-focused book that isn't a codex. So, a huge thing they need to work on, both for, like, the model ranges, but primarily for the lore, to be honest. Like, fine, we have models, at least, for everything, for, like, all the units we need. Some older models, some that have shown their age, but at least we have them. The books, we straight up have a giant fucking void of... And I get it. Like, how do you tell a story from the perspective of Xenos? Especially if we talk about something like the Tyranids or the Orcs. The Orcs are fucking dumb, so a book written from their perspective would be hard to read for a lot of people if you're being lore accurate. So oftentimes with both those and with the Tyranids, they're monsters. Like, they just eat stuff. That would be cool if they made a book from their perspective that we finally found out that there is, like, an overarching higher intelligence behind them that is actually thinking, like a Queen of Blades situation from, like, StarCraft. Like, that would be interesting, and that'd be a cool way to reveal it. It's like, all right, so we're going to reveal to you guys that there is, like, this overmind controlling the Tyranids through a book. Like, the book is written from the perspective of such a controlling synapse, you know, hive mind. It still would probably be a hard read, though, if they're being accurate to, like, a more monstrous species in the way they might think. Either they think very primitively, but even if they do think in complex thoughts and they even consider emotion into the equation, still, if they made it too human, it wouldn't be like the Tyranids. They'd have to make it inhuman and therefore harder to read and harder to relate to, and therefore most people wouldn't give it a shot. So I get why so many of the books are either Imperial Guard or Space Marines. But freaking hell, man. Like the Necrons. Like, the fact that we only have 3 books, they are a species that could be quite relatable and still alien to you or I. Why do they only have, like, 3 or 4 novels? Give us, like, 50 of them. Give us, like, 80 of them. Like, for Christ's sake, give them anywhere near the amount of attention. Take some of the, like, they have over 60 writers for the Horus Heresy series. Take, like, 20 of them and say, like, hey, guys, no more Horus Heresy for you. Necrons. Have fun. Or Eldar. Do an Eldar book. Or Drukhari. Do a Drukhari book. A Drukhari book would be an awkward read because those demented BDSM psychopaths. But that would be, it'd still be relatable on a very loose level for a human to read. And I think it'd still be it'd be a cool experiment, wouldn't it? Like, to be a writer, to be challenged that way. Like, hey, don't write this from a human perspective. It's like, oh, well, how the fuck do I do that? Well, exactly that. You're there to experiment, and as a writer, think about the challenge that would be. The testing of all the skill sets that you've put together. Now you're given a challenge where you're not to think in too much human terms. It's still human enough that you can write about it, and there is going to be a human level type connection. But again, the approach that you can potentially take is it could be either one of the best novels ever written or a clusterfuck. But either way, you get the opportunity to make the attempt to experiment. And I think for a lot of writers who've been writing about nothing but fucking Space Marines and Imperial Guard for the last 20 years would want the chance. So again, Necron. We've already done it with Necrons. We know you can write a story with them involved. Now do Drukhari. Now do Eldar. You can do it. And you can still write stories about the orcs and about the Tyranids from an outside perspective, which is what most of the stories are at this point. But again, just make the attempt. It's so much more interesting than what they've chosen to do, which is nothing. Like, it's just Space Marine, 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 Imperial Guard, Space Marine, 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 Imperial Guard, Space Marine, Space Marine, Space Marine, Sisters of Battle. See, we're diversifying. Space Marine, Space Marine, Space Marine, Space Marine, Space Marine, Space... Enough. Ludus, what's up, my brother? My question, do the drapes match the carpet? Yep. That was stupid. Ogrins and Orcs have some of the best fanfic because of the weird perspective. Yeah, exactly. But you gotta think about it. Like, those are usually short stories. Like, doing like an actual novel from an Orc's perspective, that would get old. It'd be funny for like the first 3 chapters, and then after that, it's just like, I can't fucking read this. Like, you get stuck on like every other sentence. Oh, you're at work. Don't get too distracted. I also decided to share one with my bestie. Thumbs up. Hope work isn't too bad. I have work in a couple hours here. But I know this like third shelf is empty right now. I have like other books and stuff I gotta unload from upstairs, but for now, it's kind of like an empty spot because I'm not done moving in. Like, this is just as much as I could get done, like the last 2 days, which is quite a bit. Like, I have a whole table set up here. Like, I now have my miniature table right here. Feels fantastic. I also have a table like right here that you guys can't see, but that's gonna be for like my drawing tablet and stuff. Well, I might do more with the table because it's a big table just for a drawing tablet, so I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have fun setting up around here. And I already am, but more stuff. What design features do I like in models? Design features. This is gonna sound a little broad, but like consistency of theme. Like, for me, I don't like it when models have like details or like aspects about them that just don't fit the aesthetic of the given like army, unit, or faction. Like, I don't think I have any good examples off the top of my head of like anything 40K. 40K is pretty good. Like, one thing you can definitely praise GW for is at least their designs and the art and the details and stuff you can add to like minis and things like that is fairly consistent. So But with other like tabletop games, which again I don't have any good examples off the top of my head, there are the occasional like miniature that has like a detail or an aspect to it that just doesn't fit the rest of, like, it's either too clean or too broken or dirty, or there's something about the design that just doesn't fit the rest of it. So I tend to look for like the finer details, like, okay, does this fit the aesthetic of this faction and this particular unit? And again, GW is pretty good about that, so I don't know if I rarely like don't see something, or I rarely see something on a mini from GW that I feel like just is completely out of place for it. Like, they're pretty good about the consistency, so I do look for that. But as for in terms of other design features, just like the actual like design, I also tend to look at how much detail it has. Like, I don't like it when a model has too much detail, but I also don't like it when it has virtually none. Like, a good example is the difference between, let's say, like a standard Primaris Marine, right? Standard Primaris have virtually no, and Space Marines as a whole, really have no strongly defining details on them, because they have to be left broad enough that, hey, you can paint this as this one particular Space Marine faction or this other 50. So they have to make them pretty like light on the details, and I don't really love that. Like, I also don't love that the way you combat that is by buying upgrade kits. I would rather just, you know, like, hey, this box set is for this specific, and they've kind of I won't say they fixed it, but they have kind of addressed that with combat patrols and with like similar box sets that they've been coming out with during 9th. A lot of that stuff has been coming out with, you know, pre-made factions planned for the units that you're buying. Like, there's, for example, the Death Watch combat patrol. It comes with the upgrade kits and sprues for Death Watch, so you don't have to buy normal Space Marines and then separately buy like another expensive box for the upgrade kit to then customize your models. So there's that. So, you know, again, like, that's another feature I look for, but again, it's often addressed. This is where like I can actually praise GW, and it feels kind of weird to do that at all, but I'm an honest man, and I got to give them credit where it's due. The pricing is where it falls apart, but the actual effort put into, you know, creating those combat patrols and creating other like similar box sets where you can just buy them as a whole and you already automatically get the other thing you would have had to buy separately. I guess I'm just sad that it's not in smaller scale. Like, you have to get a combat patrol, for example, if you want to get the bundle with like the upgrade sprue for that particular faction, like Space Wolves or Black Templars or whatever. If you want the upgrade sprue or the kit or that specific edition, you have to get like the combat patrol. There's not like a smaller version where it's like, hey, this is a box of tactical Marines, but this specific box is tactical Marines for the Death Watch or for Space Wolves or for Blood Angels or whatever. It's if you want to have the upgrade sprue, upgrade kit, upgrade sprue for that particular sub faction included, you have to buy the $120, $140 combat patrol box. So it's good that they have that, at least, that there is a box that you can purchase that does come with the specific faction that you're interested in's kit. But it's unfortunate that it's kind of overshadowed by the fact that it's in one of the more expensive boxes. So that's like the give and take of it. It's GW, it can't be all good, unfortunately. As for, I think that otherwise for like design features, I guess after that it would just be like preferences. Like, things I enjoy in certain miniatures is I like grandiose and like over the top. That's why I love 40k to begin with, and why I'm not really interested in bolt action at all. I'm interested in Conflict 47 because of the mechs and stuff there. But you know, I like over the top. I like grandiose. Like, the Space Marines being these big honking like Space Marines. Like, this is less of a design feature and more just actual general like theme or design rather than just a feature. But I'll just throw it in there. I like sci-fi, or not just sci-fi, although I do prefer sci-fi to fantasy. But I like over the top. I like grandiose. I like bombastic. I like unrealistic. I like that, and that's why I love my Imperial Knight. That's why I like the Orcs. That's why I like the Space Marines. That's why I like 40k. I don't like grounded, realistic, limited. It just doesn't challenge my imagination. It doesn't provide me creative stimulation to paint a model kit that is based on something I can literally go see for real in a museum. It's just, it takes away the escapism element, I suppose. Like, bolt action and similar style historical war games they're grounded in reality, and thus they force you to kind of think about reality, which is kind of the antithesis of why I enjoy video games or I enjoy tabletop gaming. I enjoy things that take me away from the reality that I live in. So, escapism, in short. So that's, again, that's not really a design feature. That's just overarching design that I look for. But yeah, I like that. I know it's still a story/human, but Betrayer is looking like a great book, and it's even by ADB. I haven't checked out Betrayer yet, so I'll abstain from giving an opinion. It's ADB though, so that already sours the waters. But I'm a rational person. I can look past my biases and my distastes to be honest about a product. Alrighty. Alright, I think I'm going to end the stream there, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming in, attending, and hanging out with me. I got like an hour and a half till work, so I'm going to take that time. I'm going to go shower, going to go do the basic maintenance and stuff. Probably finish moving in a little bit more, not too much. I want to have enough energy to actually finish my work day. But yeah, thanks so much for coming in, guys. I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.